Have you been struggling to pick up the unknown lately? Have you been playing him for a while but you still can't get consistent results with him? Do all your chases look like this, where the survivors constantly dispel themselves in chase and you cannot catch them, you cannot make any progress? If that's the case, you are not alone. Actually, a lot of people are struggling with the unknown right now. So many people, in fact, that this killer has been called the Harmless by the community. I am Reltar, a dedicated unknown main, and lately my kill rate on this killer has been over 96% with a win rate of over 99%. Follow me, and in this guide I'll explain you how. In this guide, I'll explain you how you can win all of your games on the unknown by playing him the way he's meant to be played, so that you can stop being the Harmless and actually make survivors fear you. The playstyle I'll be teaching you takes some practice to master. You will have to put in the work, but I promise if you apply it, you will turn the Harmless into the harmful. Let's start with how the unknown power works at a very basic level. Feel free to skip this part if you already know how his power works. The first part of the unknown power is UVX. By holding your power button, you will pull out this horrific organ that can shoot UVX. By pressing your attack button while holding it, you will shoot a grenade-like projectile. This projectile will detonate in a pink blast if it hits the ground, but it will also detonate if it hits any corner, be it on the ceiling or on the walls. This projectile also has a bouncing property to it. It will bounce off any vertical surface it hits. This property can be used to surprise a lot of survivors, as they usually don't expect it. Take a look at this clip, for instance. The survivor I'm chasing is going to go up there in the cold tower. Instead of chasing him in that strong main building, I just take a mental note of where he'll be standing waiting to see me, and then I use this window frame upstairs to make my UVX bounce to him and secure it, and in this case a down. It's very important to learn to not shoot straight at the survivor, as getting hit by the projectile does nothing. Instead, aim to hit them with the blast, by shooting at the ground below them or a wall behind them. The nice thing with UVX is that survivors can get hit by it through walls. This is how you get it in loops with the unknown. When a survivor gets hit by UVX, they get afflicted with a special status called weakened for 10 seconds. On the survivor side, being weakened looks like this. Once weakened, the only way for a survivor to remove it is to look at the unknown for 10 seconds. If the survivor stops looking at the unknown, the weakened dispelling process pauses. Once the survivor looked at the unknown enough, they are dispelled and the unknown will need to infect them again. If a survivor gets hit by UVX while they are already weakened, then the weakened will refill and the survivor will get injured. You might have understood already, but the whole idea behind this killer is to stay out of sight from the survivors after weakening them the first time to get a second UVX shot on them before they get to dispel themselves. Here you can see that I didn't land a second shot on this Rebecca before she dispelled herself. As a consequence, I lost all my weakened progress on her and I had to reinfect her again from scratch. However, if I hide behind the walls of this loop, she will be dispelling herself much more slowly this time, which will allow me to land 2 shots that actually deal damage to her and get the down. One last thing to remember about UVX is that it affects any survivor caught in the blast, like a grenade. This allows for devastating snipes on survivors that are grouping up. Survivors that are healing or doing chants are perfect targets for snipes. I'll elaborate on this in the playstyle section, but the area of effect damage the unknown can do is unmatched. He is the strongest killer at punishing survivors grouping up. One last property of UVX is that if you quickly tap the power button without actually holding it, you will keep deploying your UVX shooting organ without slowing you down. This will force the survivor to zigzag, anticipating you to shoot. From there you can either commit to the shot if you cracked their dodge pattern, or you can simply walk close enough to do a basic attack on them. UVX was the first part of the Unknown power, but that's not all he can do. Periodically, the Unknown will leave hallucinations of himself in his wake. The Unknown can have up to 4 hallucinations at a time. If he exceeds the hallucination limit, the oldest hallucination will get replaced by the newest one. At any moment in the game and from anywhere on the map, the Unknown can instantly teleport to any of his hallucinations. This is a great property that allows him to be virtually everywhere on the map at once. After teleporting, all hallucinations on the map are on cooldown. Their aura gets yellow and they cannot be used until the cooldown is back up. You can track how much time is left until the Unknown produces his next hallucination by looking at the rightmost icon of the Unknown power. When the Unknown is about to produce a new hallucination, you will see the usually purple smoke on the edge of your screen turn yellow. It will slowly rise to the top of your screen. At the exact moment it reaches the top, a new hallucination will be made, exactly where the Unknown was standing. When the yellow smoke appears, it's a point of no return, but you still have an absolute control on where your hallucination will be spawning. If you quickly tap the UVX button without holding it, you will constantly be delaying the hallucination spawn. This is commonly known as edging, and it allows you to place your hallucination where you please. The more weakened survivors there are in the game, the faster your hallucinations will spawn. Here is a side-by-side comparison of the spawn rate with no survivor weakened on the left and 4 survivors weakened on the right. Your hallucinations are not eternal. They disappear when you reach the hallucination limit, but survivors can also actively dispel them. Unaffected survivors will dispel them pretty quickly, while weakened survivors will be a bit slower at dispelling them. Dispelling is not without risks for the survivor. If the Unknown teleports on an hallucination as the survivor is dispelling it, that survivor will be immobilized for a short period, guaranteeing a hit from the Unknown. If a survivor stops dispelling before the dispelling process is fully over, they will also become weakened as if they were shot by UVX. Dispelling while the Unknown doesn't have his teleport ability on cooldown is very risky for survivors. Now that we have a clearer understanding of how the Unknown power works, let me tell you about the most important part, the playstyle. It is very different from the usual chase hook repeat playstyle of most killers. The Unknown's power is really strong, but not in a committed chase. Actually, in a pure 1v1 chase scenario, he's pretty mid-tier at best. But he's not weak, his strength lies elsewhere. You might ask yourself, well Heltar, if I don't commit to chases, how am I supposed to get a down? And that's where the Unknown's strength truly shines. UVX is a wonderful power. Not only does it hit through ceilings, but it also hits through walls. A survivor might be thinking they are safe just because they are around the corner and cannot see you, but they would be mistaken to think that. UVX also has an amazing range and can be shot above obstacles. With practice, you can become a living mortar. But not only that, the greatest feature of UVX is that it deals area of effect damage. And it's not possible to dodge if the survivors don't see you shooting. If survivors are packed somewhere, UVX can be absolutely devastating. The first opportunity for such snipes arises when survivors are healing. Healing is what the Unknown excels at punishing. This is why Nurse's Calling is a mandatory perk on the Unknown, but I'll talk more about it later. But basically the survivors are never safe and can be sniped from any angle. The second situation where survivors are very vulnerable is obviously when they are sitting on gens. As UVX can come from so many different angles, it's so easy to get survivors on gens for free injuries to start your snowball. And don't think any gen is truly safe. There are always angles from which you can snipe the survivors, be it windows, walls, ceiling, or just falling from the sky. With all of this in mind, a very deadly playstyle arises, one that is very hit and run oriented and very snowbally at the same time. The first thing you need to learn is to stop following a survivor right after shooting them with UVX. Consider yourself disarmed when your UVX is on cooldown. Hide behind anything, and if it's not possible, teleport away. In many cases, the survivors will be the one to chase you to dispel themselves anyway, because if they don't, they will get punished. Try to keep as many survivors infected and injured as possible. You can try to go for a follow-up shot, but if they dodge it, it's okay to drop chase. If they are weakened and injured, they are just lambs to the slaughter. They will need to heal, they will need to do gens, and that's precisely in those situations that you can make the best of UVX area of effect damage. And even if survivors don't go down directly because of the snipe, if you get close to them while they are fully weakened, it's really easy to get them. Most of your time on this killer will be spent controlling the game and roaming the map, looking for vulnerable survivors to catch off guard. Just get your injury and then don't bother about chasing too much. Let the survivors get confident and think you're scared of chasing them. You don't want to commit to chases anyway, and if they think that because you're not chasing them they are safe, they are wrong. Just let them relax and heal somewhere, or work on a gen, and then catch them by surprise. Hallucinations are a core part of your map presence. If you leave survivors weakened, you will generate them faster. Use them to be everywhere, injure, weaken, pull the survivor string, and let them dance for you. Just let them fear you by always staying out of sight, unless you got them in a vulnerable position. And when the opportunity arises, when all the survivors are injured, weakened, and where you want them to be, deliver the checkmate. With hallucinations, you are virtually everywhere on the map at once. You are a phantom threat. Let survivors fear you and get paranoid. Anticipate where they will be healing or doing gens with your game sense, and pinpoint it with nurses calling. Then punish them. Never give them the relief of looking at you in chase. Keep the pressure flowing. Just always be everywhere on the map. Teleport left, teleport right. Use perks like Unforeseen and Monitor and Abuse to sneak up on the survivors and catch them healing or doing gens. Use UVX properties to get them through the ceiling and through walls. And just leave them wondering what the hell just happened. When the number of weakened survivors starts getting low, either because you hooked them or because some chased you to dispel themselves, you will want to go through what I call a dealing phase. This is a phase of gameplay where you will want to be extra cowardly and avoid chases at all costs to reinfect at least half of the team. This is important to always have at least 2 survivors weakened, because they are feeding you. The more weakened survivors there are, the more hallucinations you produce, so be ready to quickly reinfect everyone while they are still injured and most vulnerable to your UVX. A good rule to go by is that a chase shouldn't ever last longer than 1 UVX shot. You shoot, and no matter if you miss or hit your target, you leave. Most of the times, if you apply the playstyle correctly, you will create tons of opportunities for a better use of your time on the map, often even game-ending ones. Don't let dropping chase hurt your ego too much. The unknown is just not made to chase in the first place. He's meant to split the pressure on the map and catch survivors by surprise. You shoot, and then you teleport away. Use his AoE blast to inflict bigger damage elsewhere. Force them in a lose-lose situation macro-wise. Injured and weakened, they can either heal and get double sniped, or work on gens and get sniped from angles they can't see coming. Just be always there, lurking around the map. If you play well, they won't know where you are most of the time. They won't know when they are about to get blasted. You could say, you will truly be unknown. I've just told you committing to chases is overall a bad idea. However, there are some specific situations where chasing can actually be the right decision. These are situations where you have a high likelihood of getting a down or at least an injury within a very short time span. In the following part of this guide, I'll be teaching you how to work around most of the game tiles to get UVX shots reliably when certain conditions are met. The most important part to remember when chasing in tiles is that you are not the Huntress. You are not Springtrap. You are the Unknown, and your ranged attack has its own properties. Most of your hits in tiles will be through wall, through ceilings, and through UVX rebounds. Think of it this way. Your projectile is pretty slow moving, and if good survivors see you shooting, they will be able to dodge it if they are not close from you. By hitting through walls and ceiling, you remove that counterplay. You can get direct hits if you catch a survivor in the open and they are not too far from you. But always remember, you can simply ignore tiles if you predict the survivor's pathing by simply shooting over the tile. Look at this poor Leon. I guess he didn't see that coming. When chasing a survivor, you want to break line of sight as much as possible. Don't follow them directly. Flank them. This will prevent them from dispelling their UVX infection and will make them much easier to shoot. The key to reliably damage the survivors is to manage your weakened status on them efficiently. For instance, since I drop chased after infecting this Nancy earlier in the game in this clip, she starts the chase with a full weaken timer while my UVX is off cooldown. I get an easy first injury, but after that I miss my follow-up shot. Now, let's pause for a moment. At this point, if I decided to follow her while my UVX is on cooldown like most inexperienced unknown players would, she would dispel herself and I would need to weaken her again. The chase has become unfavorable to me, because it would allow her to get rid of her infection. The best thing to do here is to just drop chase. She's weakened, she's injured, she's very vulnerable to getting sniped later. So in this position, I have two choices. I can either flank her to approach her again while taking cover, or I can pressure other survivors and snipe her later. In this specific case, I choose the first option because one survivor is dead and one is on hook, so I know no other survivor is healing or doing gens on the map. There is no need to hide my position and I am more free to chase. I approach her while taking cover behind everything I can hide behind. My UVX is off cooldown and she is still weakened because of the detour I took, which leaves me some time for another shot attempt. This time it hits her. We are now entering the part of the guide where I'll explain you some chasing tips to get hits that are pretty reliable in most of the game tiles. You will see that the Unknown has a very unorthodox approach to tiles, but a very effective one if the right conditions are met. With the Unknown, some pretty safe tiles for the survivors can become dangerous. Let's start with the most common ones, filler pallets. With fillers, the first thing to understand is that pallets themselves are a very nice surface to detonate UVX on. If you manage to get a survivor to be under the pallet, you can shoot at the back of the pallet to detonate your UVX and hit them through the pallet with the blast. This also works from the front of the pallet. You can bounce your UVX on it, so that it will fall on the survivor. The key to reliably getting hits at filler pallets is to get the survivor to be under the pallet at the moment your UVX comes off cooldown. This is the moment for me to talk to you about pallet control. Let's rewatch this clip at a slower speed so I can explain you what I mean. Here my UVX just started its cooldown because I shot the chill on her chin. It's important I place myself right under the pallet as soon as possible to gain pallet control. Pallet control is a term that describes a situation where the killer is under the pallet while the survivor is at the other end of the loop. In this situation, for instance, I have the pallet control, because I'm standing under the pallet while Chill is on the other end of this wall. This means she is zoned. She wouldn't make it to any other loop, so she cannot leave. She cannot approach the pallet again for now, because I'm in the way and would hit her. She's absolutely zoned in this position. I zone her here just long enough by doing this little dance here to have my UVX back up exactly right as she approaches the pallet again, and right as I reach the perfect shooting spot. From there, it's just an easy shot on the pallet and down she goes. I use the same principle to get this Adam here. I place myself under the pallet to zone him away from it while my UVX is on cooldown. Then, I move so that he goes under the pallet right when I'm ready to shoot. He tries to do something smart here by trying to leave the tile, but UVX blast is pretty big, so I still get him. Zoning is key to reliably getting hits for the unknown. Look at this Ada for instance. I just infected her by shooting from below, and now she's stuck in this room. Instead of showing myself and following her, I'll just be watching the exit while I hide from her so she doesn't get to dispel her weakened status. Then I come back in again. She decides to loop this pallet, but once again, zoning is key. This pallet loop will become her grave. With my movement, I force her into a position where it's an easy UVX shot. By the way, have you seen how this UVX shot bounced in an upwards way from the ramp here? This is another property of UVX. When UVX hits a sloped surface, it tends to bounce off it upwards. Here you can see a good example of the use of that property. Now, Cow 3 is normally a pretty hard tile to chase a survivor in as the unknown. However, when Sable drops the pallet, I take a step back and then I use the pallet as a springboard to reach Sable with an angle that would otherwise be impossible without this property. If a survivor is trying to loop around an obstacle while being cornered, a lot of the time, if they have no other loop nearby, you simply don't need to move at all. Just detonate UVX on the obstacle for unavoidable hits. And don't forget you can also hit through walls. This corner pallet on Larry's is a death trap when facing the unknown. When the walls are too thick to blast the survivor through, look for any kind of obstacle behind the wall to bounce UVX on and surprise the survivor. And if said wall looks too thick but has an hollow part, shoot at that part to blast the survivor on the other side. I will now briefly talk about jungle gyms. Both short wall and long wall jungle gyms have a weak spot in common, the pallet. Take a look at this chase with Steve. I first snipe him on his gen, and then I see him pathing towards this jungle gym. The nice thing with jungle gyms is that they have a big wall communicating with that pallet. If you hit that wall, then you will also hit the survivor behind. And it doesn't matter if that pallet is pre-dropped or not, if the survivor goes around it or not. This is just a very vulnerable spot to be in against the unknown. If you approach it with the right angle, the window corner of a short wall jungle gym is also deadly. Look at this Claudette here. She's trying to loop around the structure, but she gets caught in that corner. The next tip works in LT walls, long wall jungle gyms, and 4 lanes, or every situation where you have a window with a survivor mirroring your movement on the other side. You can shoot on the window frame for it to rebound on the survivor. This tip works in a wide variety of tiles. In any tiles, you can bounce your UVX on a pallet or a wall to extend its range and hit the survivors from cheeky angles. In 4 lanes, you can hit the survivor through the wall if they go for the pallet. It works for both short side and long side. Then, if they go for the window, you can use the wall of the 4th lane behind that window to bounce UVX on, or you can use the window frame just like I showed previously. Now, I'll give you some shot angles you can get around Killer Shack. The first shot angle is that if the survivor is going for the pallet by running along the window wall from the outside, you can pre-shot the pallet. Then, if they are on the inside of Shack, whether they go for the pallet or for the window, you can just shoot them like any other ranged killer. This is the first way a survivor can run around Shack. But you also have other possibilities that I will be explaining. If a survivor is playing inside Shack, you want to break line of sight by hiding behind the wall with the window. From there you can pre-shot the Shack entrance to catch the survivor holding that check spot. In this clip, I will miss my second shot like a noob, but this is also a great opportunity to show you that as long as you hide behind that wall, the survivors cannot dispel themselves. That Shack corner there with the locker is a great angle if the survivor is running to the window from the outside. Now, what to do if the survivors are running along the long wall of Shack, but they had some distance initially and you can't make it to the window to shoot the pallet in time? The corner of Shack, where the basement can spawn, is a perfect angle to get them through the wall. Another tile you can get consistent hits in is the pallet gym. You will want to run it exclusively by chasing the survivor in the same direction as in this clip. Then, when the survivor reaches the pallet, you can shoot this wall to blast the survivor. Take a look at this clip. After sniping the Nea, I will chase the Ash here. Let's slow the clip down so we can analyze everything. I cannot shoot the first time because my UVX is still on cooldown. However, he decides to not pre-drop the pallet and to actually play the tile, which is a mistake against the unknown. Here he will be pretty smart. He sees me preparing to shoot the wall and chose to move in an unpredictable way to dodge it. Good survivors will try to make you miss with that kind of movement. However, it is reactable for the unknown with experience. After infecting him, I take the free hit with my hallucination, and then, when he runs back to the pallet, this time I get him through the wall. No matter where you're chasing, be it LT walls, Shack, jungle gyms, pallet gyms, just always remember to hide from the survivors as much as possible, and to make the most of your VX ability to hit through walls. Hide as much as possible and sneak up on the survivors. If they get close to you to dispel themselves, hit them to force them to run away, using their own speed boost from the hit to stop them from watching you. And when you are close to a survivor, use the unknown ability to quickly tap his UVX button without being slowed down if he doesn't hold it, to force the survivors to constantly try to dodge while you close in on them. And also don't forget that if they dodge too much, you can just use a basic attack on them. Finally, one last thing you can do to surprise the survivors is to flick your camera right as you are shooting. This will make it look like the shot doesn't go where you are aiming and it can surprise survivors. I would have plenty of other tricks to show you, but they mostly come with experience. His power is very versatile. Remember, you are unlike any other ranged killer. Make the most of rebounds. Use the tile's geometry to your advantage. With experience, if you get close to a survivor that was already weakened, you can end chases in literally 10 seconds. But never forget, his greatest strength is his map pressure and his ability to punish survivors grouping up. The chase tips section of this guide ends here. I'll now be discussing the perks and add-ons. Let's start with perks. You might have guessed it already based on my playstyle, but the perk that never leaves my loadout is Nurse's Calling. This perk reveals the aura of any healing survivors within 32 meters of you, which if you have been paying attention to the playstyle section is so strong on the unknown as you can see survivors healing while shooting from behind obstacles that hide your presence to them. 32 meters is also roughly the range of UVX, making it the perfect perk for the unknown. Next, Monitor and Abuse is a nice perk that will shrink your terror radius when you are not in a chase. This is wonderful for the unknown, because it allows you to snipe survivors from outside of your terror radius. But even if the survivors are closer to you than 24 meters, they will hear it as you being further than you actually are. This will help you get close enough to them before they realize you're even there. A good alternative to Monitor and Abuse is Unforeseen. Unlike Monitor and Abuse, which shrinks your terror radius, Unforeseen hides it totally, but there is a catch. What Unforeseen does is transfer your terror radius to the gen you just hit, but the downside is that it will only last for 30 seconds. As it makes you totally undetectable, this is a better option than Monitor and Abuse on indoor maps where you can snipe the survivors from afar. But it's generally worse than Monitor and Abuse on open maps because it's only active for 40 seconds after kicking a gen. Discordance is a wonderful perk on the unknown. It will warn you when 2 or more survivors are working on the same gen. This is a perfect snipe opportunity, and it will allow you to have a better gen control in the game. Aura perks like Barbecue and Chili give you some nice information on every survivor position on the map. This is a very precious information as the unknown, as it allows you to make an informed decision on where to go next to make the most out of your UVX. Nowhere to Hide is another aura perk that is excellent on the unknown. Since he can hit through walls and ceilings, you can get some really good hits from this perk. And now, I'll be showing you the 2 perks loadout I use the most in game. My favorite loadout is this one. Nurse's Calling, Monitor and Abuse, Eruption and Discordance. It is the perfect build for outdoor maps, and it is still decently strong on indoor maps. It allows for great snipes out of terror radius with Monitor and Abuse, while Nurse's Calling and Discordance tell me where to aim without being seen by the survivors. You might think it's light on gen regression, but Eruption is more than enough. This is a build where you will be roaming a lot, typically shooting a survivor by surprise and then kicking their gen. You will typically get a huge amount of Eruption proc, and that will regress the chance a lot. Eruption also has an aura reading property that will tell you if a gen has been picked up since you left, so you will know if you need to teleport to that area or not, which will save you a lot of time. My second favorite loadout is this one. It's better on indoor maps, but worse on open maps. Unforeseen allows for on-demand complete stealth at the condition you have a generator to kick when you are on the prowl. Overall, the playstyle on indoor maps is a bit less snipey, but allows you to stay hidden while chasing, making you stronger in chase. That's why I replaced Discordance with Pain Res here. Barbecue and Chili can be used instead of Pain Res for more info to catch the survivors off guard, and I've had similar results with both builds. Now that I told you about the loadouts I'm using the most, I'd like to talk a bit about the add-ons. You can see that no matter the perk loadouts I'm running, I always run double iridescent add-ons. That is because, unfortunately, the strongest add-ons on the unknown are iridescent add-ons, but I promise you, if you get good at this killer, you will get enough blood points on average to run this every game. Look at my current stock. I have more than 300 black wards left, and more than 400 of each area add-on, despite running this build every game. I'll explain you why these add-ons are so strong, and then I present a few alternatives to you. The first theory add-on is Captured by the Dark. This add-on makes it so that when you spawn in, every survivor on the map is already weakened, at the cost of making your hallucinations limit on the map 3 instead of 4. This just spares you so much time, because without it you would want to infect at least 2 survivors at the start before injuring anyone, so you can have a steady flow of hallucinations. Here, since everyone is already weakened, you will spawn your first hallucination much faster, and you will have much more map presence right off the bat. You will also have much more pressure right off the bat, as every survivor can be directly injured by your UVX. The unknown is really strong when you start a chase with a survivor fully weakened, and it often leads to a 10-second chase. The other iridescent add-on is the iridescent OSS report. This will cause your teleport cooldown to be 5 seconds shorter, which is excellent as it fits the split pressure playstyle I've been teaching you very well. But it has another property that is very good. When you teleport, it will leave behind a decoy of you that looks like if you just stopped moving and has the same terror radius as you. This decoy will fade away after a while, but it is very useful to confuse the survivors on your actual position. If you don't have the blood points to run the iridescent add-ons every game, then I can advise you to run these two add-ons. So the first one is the footprint cast and the second one is the sketch attempt. First, let's talk about the footprint cast. Base kit, when you shoot a survivor, you get some progress on your next hallucination spawn. The footprint cast accelerates your next hallucination spawn by 15 seconds. Here is a side-by-side comparison of the progress on your next hallucination you get from shooting a survivor with and without footprint cast. It might not look like much, but will be weakening a lot of survivors in a game, multiplying its value. Finally, the sketch attempt is an add-on that will render survivors hit by UVX oblivious for 20 seconds, meaning they won't be able to hear your terror radius. This can allow you to teleport away from behind the wall without the survivor noticing, as they will have to be paranoid you're still there. It's excellent for a split pressure playstyle. But now that I've been talking so much about the theory, it's time to show you what it means in practice. I'll show you an actual game so you can see by yourself what the unknown playstyle looks like in practice. So as you can see, we spawned in and unfortunately we missed our first shot. But as the survivor doesn't have line of sight on us, it's absolutely okay. They just can't dispel themselves and we have time for a second shot. We get an injury on Sable, but as we are in the open, we don't want to be following her because she could dispel herself. So instead, we just go around here trying to get a few snipes on the gens. We find a wild Nia on this gen. So Nia is fully weakened and our UVX is off cooldown, we'll get an easy injury there. I can see that she chooses to run towards my hallucination, so I teleport there and I can catch her off guard. I make a mistake here. I choose to shoot the wall, thinking that Ace would stick to this loop, but instead he sends it and he dispels himself. As I'm following this Sable, I pull UVX in and out so she jukes and I get the hit. But look at the situation right now. Every survivor is swarming around the slugged Nia because they want to get a pallet safe. This is actually a golden opportunity for us because it will allow us to get a lot of survivors injured and weakened and set up a snowball later. As you can see, we are running these cordons, and here it was really good because we got an injury and an infection through that. We see that this Ace is trying to stick to the gen. He expected me to camp the Nia probably, but he's an easy down. We stopped this gen just in time and we can apply Eruption to it, because now it will become a really good point of interest for the survivors. We also get a double weekend here. That's really good. Right now we are in total control of the game. Let's just took this Ace real quick. Right now, as you can see, every single survivor is injured or weakened. This is really good for us. And then we find the V. She actually was pretty reactive and dodged her first shot, but I can give chase here because her UVX timer is full. And since it's full, I don't have to worry about her dispelling herself. She quickly goes down as a result. In the event we couldn't have downed her, we would have teleported away. So we teleport away now, anyway, and we go on this gen here. Because I'm running Monitor and Abuse, this Nia didn't see that coming, and she gets sniped from outside my terror radius. While I'm hooking her, Eruption is coming off cooldown, which allows me to kick the gen right away. This gen will really give us a lot in this game because survivors will be really eager to finish it. In the HUD, I've just spotted that Ace got healed. This means that the survivors are probably resetting somewhere. That's why right now I'm roaming around the map, hoping to see them and catch them. The Nia gets unhooked and they start healing, but I'm too close, so they hear my terror radius, so they disperse immediately. I however get the shot on the Nia. I don't commit though, because I dare her to stick to this gen. If she does, she's in for a bad time because now she's weakened. Instead, I get an infection on this ace here, and I will even get a follow-up shot. Now, he's injured, but I don't want to commit to the chase, because he's lammed to the slaughter if he stays in that state. Here the Nia, just like I predicted, chose to stick to the gen, and she was weakened, so this time I get her. And this is a pattern you can notice with the unknown. If you manage to get close to a survivor while they're already fully weakened because you previously didn't chase them after infecting them, then they will usually go down very quickly because you have a lot of time to adjust your shot, and they don't have a lot of time to dodge it. This ace was pretty smart. He chose to not hug the wall because he predicted I would shoot it. But now I can just fake that I'm shooting, so that he starts juking, and once again I get him. Never forget that the threat of shooting UVX will make the survivors move in really unoptimal ways and allow you to easily down them. So if you sneak upon them close while they are already weakened, it's easy. Now it's time to teleport back to this gen, because it would make sense for them to try to finish it, as it has so much progress. But I don't find anyone, so I just kick it with Eruption, and then I'll try to get some damage elsewhere. I find this ace healing here by the cow tree, and I manage to get a snipe on him. Now he's weakened again, but once again I don't want to chase them, because I just weakened them, and now they will be vulnerable. I find another easy injury there with this V on this gen, and I hit her, I shoot, but I got something else to do. Now, I can see on the HUD that Ace got healed and I know he's by cow tree, so I just say a quick hello to him and injure him again. Because I was on this ace that was on death hook, this Nia committed a really grave mistake by wanting to go on the gen assuming I would go for the ace that was on death hook. But she's on death hook too, and now she's the one to die. I know that Ace and Sable are probably still healing by the cow tree, so this is an area of the map I want to check. If I played this a bit better, it would be an easy snipe, but I'm legal blind and I get blocked by this hook. Fortunately for me, they make a bit of a blunder here, and I manage to once again get them both injured and weakened. You can really see how strong Eruption is on the Unknown as a gen regression perk. As I'm roaming the map a lot, I'm just kicking every gen, and when I get a down, every gen I've previously kicked regresses at once. Usually when I play with music on, and this time I didn't hear the V until it was too late. She had time to drop the pallet, and she would have had time to dodge the UVX, so I'm not even trying. I know there are 2 survivors healing elsewhere, so there is a better use of my time. I find the healing survivors again, and Sable is already fully weakened, she's injured, she's no match, she goes down immediately. And that's just a pattern. If the Unknown is right behind you and you are fully weakened because he left you right after infecting you in the previous chase, there is nothing you can do. I then teleport back to the gen. I'm really surprised to see that it has not been picked up. I guess that V was scared for her life. However, I see that the survivors are unhooking in the distance. I'm walking sideways like that, hoping that maybe they will heal together and I will get a double shot, but they don't fall for it, so I just close in on this Sable at cow tree. I just infect her so I can go back for her later. Right now I've got something else to do as I left that gen unchecked so long. I'm not surprised to find V again on this gen. This time I actually will get a weaken for her because she goes for the pallet gym, and like I've previously told you, the pallet gym is a pretty vulnerable spot to be in against the Unknown. I actually commit to the chase here because she's forced to run in the open with nothing ahead of her, and that's an easy down with UVX. I just quickly reapply Eruption to this gen, and then teleport towards the cow tree because I know Sable is around here. I try to go for a snipe, but unfortunately that's a bad angle with the cow tree branch. Now, cow tree is a pretty hard structure to chase in as the unknown. The problem with cow tree is that you don't have a lot of time to shoot, you have this window where you can shoot, and then the rest of the time the survivor can look at you while you're looping around it. This time, however, I find a little trick to still get her by using the pallet as a springboard to bounce the UVX to her. I could have waited for Eruption before kicking this gen, but at this point the game is practically won anyway. Now I find this ace again. Here, as he's already weakened, just like always, he's really easy to shoot the first time, as I have a ton of time to shoot and he doesn't have a lot of time to dodge. And then, as I lose almost no distance, catching him in the open like that is a death sentence for him. After rooking him, I only have 2 more survivors to find. They're both injured, they're easy to find, and this Sable is sprint bursting away from me. She has a lot of distance and I don't see a lot with the corn, so unfortunately here I will miss my shot. At this point, I absolutely don't have to secure the win, but I'm a pretty competitive guy and I like to finish my games with the least amount of gens completed. So I just kick this gen real quick and then I will teleport trying to find V or Sable. I find V. After weakening her, I'll just stay hidden behind this wall, because this way she cannot dispel herself, and then when my UPX is back up, I just shoot under the pallet and I get her. Now, this Sable was actually pretty good at hiding and she was playing hide and seek with me after I hooked the V. So I ended up finding her before she found Dash, but I will skip that part because that video is already pretty long. I can give you a peek at how it ends though. This guide is now nearing its end. I hope you enjoyed it. What we can say about the Unknown is that he's a killer that is pretty weak in one area and very strong in 2 others. His committed chase is not good, and this is the reason the community has been calling him the Harmless. But make no mistake, he's not weak, he's just different. He is very good at being all around the map at once and pressuring the whole team, because his ability to ambush survivors by sniping them from outside his terror radius, or to 2-tap any previously weakened survivor that he manages to sneak upon, makes him a permanent threat. He got wrongly called the Harmless because most people who tried to play him played him like any other killer, committing to chases on one survivor at a time, when he's a killer fully meant to be split pressuring the whole team at once. My ultimate advice for you, if you pick up the Unknown, is to not give up. At the start I struggled too. In fact, if you look at my stats on the Unknown, my average kill rate on him is only 84.90% since he was released, despite my recent kill rates being over 90%, because at the start I struggled too. With these stats, I want to show you and all of the DBD community that this killer is really not harmless. I feel like this killer got done dirty by the community, when it's just because people simply haven't grasped his most optimal playstyle. And with this guy today, I hope I have managed to change your mind about him and to convince you that with the right playstyle, he can actually be a good killer. This was my first video. I'm a bit anxious, but I'm considering streaming to showcase what the Unknown is capable of. This guide is a bit of a test to see if people would be interested in watching this particular playstyle. I might start streaming in the near future if I overcome my anxiety about streaming. If I do so, it will be on this Twitch channel on screen. On this channel, I also might be publishing some commented games, just like the one in this guide. If you are interested in seeing it, subscribe and hit the like button. It will help me a lot with my start on YouTube. Finally, I thank you a lot for watching, and I hope you will have fun with the unknown. Fun is the most important part about this game, and I hope you won't forget it.